Whenever superhero movies released, it's always exciting to see how the characters are going to look in live action. In a lot of cases, they look fantastic. Ben Affleck's Batman, Ryan Reynolds' most recent Deadpool, Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man, and Tom Hiddleston's Loki all looked great, but that's not always the case. Whether it's because they were vastly different from the classic costumes seen in the comic books, or because the actors hated wearing them, costumes in superhero movies have been sources of a lot of controversy over the years. In this video, we'll take a look at some prime examples. Here are 10 famous superhero movies that got the costumes all wrong. Deadpool and X-Men Origins Wolverine. Thankfully, we've now had a cinematic version of Deadpool worthy of praise. He looked awesome in 2016, even if his costume and makeup did make it impossible for Ryan Reynolds to even sit down. But back in 2009, in X-Men Origins Wolverine, we were given a variation of the character that was all wrong. He looked more like Baraka from the Mortal Kombat video game series than he looked like Deadpool from the comic books, and he was infamously nicknamed Barakapool as a result. In addition to having his mouth sewn shut, he wore simple elastic top pants and no shirt, instead of Deadpool's famous all-over red and black uniform. It really was horrendous in every respect. Daredevil in Daredevil. We may have a great live-action version of Daredevil on the small screen these days, and Ben Affleck might have finally proven his worth as a superhero in Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, but nobody will forget how bad 2003's Daredevil movie was, mostly because of how silly the Man Without Fear looked in his costume. The hero of Hell's Kitchen is blind, so you can forgive him for his poor choice, but the fact is that his red leather costume made him look like a male dominatrix. It genuinely looked as though he would make a squeaking noise every time Daredevil moved, and the tiny protruding horns on the headpiece made it look like something a child would wear to dress up as the devil on Halloween. It also had a visible zipper. No superhero costume should ever have a visible zipper.
I know, right?
Hal Jordan in Green Lantern. CGI is a big part of Hollywood these days, and even costumes that are mostly practical can be augmented with some computer-generated imagery. But 2011's Green Lantern movie went a step further than any superhero movie before it, by making the lead character's costume entirely CGI. The idea was that the suit was created by Hal Jordan's Green Lantern ring and was made of pure energy, but the end result wasn't great. It just didn't look natural and didn't seem to combine well with the live-action actor wearing it. Reynolds himself also stressed that the bodysuit he had to wear in order for the costume to be generated over it must have been made of actual woven misery, given how uncomfortable it made him feel. And he even made reference to how bad the costume itself was in his latest superhero outing as Deadpool.
And please don't make the supersuit green or animated.
Some people like it, some people don't.
John Constantine in Constantine. If there's one thing that DC and Vertigo Comics' John Constantine is known for, it's his iconic beige trench coat. And what one thing did 2005's Constantine movie seemingly forget to give the character? You got it, his iconic beige trench coat. Keanu Reeves starred as the character in the somewhat underrated movie, but the item of clothing he's so notable for wearing in the comic books was conspicuous in its absence. Instead, he wore a long black coat, and while it wasn't terrible and didn't make him look silly or anything, it just wasn't Constantine. Thankfully, we've since had a live-action Constantine television series starring Matt Ryan, in which the character did wear a beige trench coat, but that's now been cancelled.
What choice do we have?
Scarlet Witch in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. When Elizabeth Olsen first appeared as Scarlet Witch in the mid-credits scene of Captain America: The Winter Soldier in 2014, it was very exciting for fans. Since then, she's appeared in 2015's Avengers: Age of Ultron and 2016's Captain America: Civil War as the character. And to be fair to the actress, she's been great, but her costume is incredibly boring compared to the comic book version of the character. Classically, Scarlet Witch wears a very sexy red outfit that shows a lot of flesh, and it comes complete with a red cape and a headdress. But the MCU version essentially wears everyday clothes. There's some red in the costume, but that's as far as the similarities with the comic version go.
It felt like that.
Apocalypse in X-Men Apocalypse. Nobody in their right mind would have thought a crossover between the X-Men and Power Rangers was possible before 2016. But when images of the titular villain in X-Men Apocalypse first appeared, some people were almost convinced it was about to happen. Oscar Isaac's character looked absolutely nothing like how Apocalypse looks in the comic books, and far more strongly resembled a certain Ivan Ooze from 1995's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers the movie. The armor on this version of Apocalypse just wasn't bulky enough, and didn't have the obvious protruding cables hanging from it. More to the point, it just looked cheap. It was also purple, which forced Fox to put a blue hue on the movie to make the color more closely resemble the comic book version. Patience Phillips in Catwoman. Michelle Pfeiffer might have hated her costume in 1992's Batman Returns. She had to be vacuum sealed into it, and it was very uncomfortable for her. But at least she looked damn good in it. Halle Berry can't say the same for the time she portrayed a twisted version of the character in 2004's awful Catwoman movie. Aside from the fact that the movie totally butchered the origins of the character, gave her cat-like powers, and changed her name to Patience Phillips, Berry's Catwoman looked ridiculous. More specifically, her costume was absolutely horrendous. It looked cheap, like something from a low-class adult show in Amsterdam, and while it showed a hell of a lot more skin than Pfeiffer's version, it just wasn't as sexy, and didn't quite have the same effect on men around the world as a result. Batman in Batman and Robin. 1997's Batman and Robin was the worst Batman movie of all time, and although the lead character's costume wasn't that much different from the one worn by Michael Keaton in the far superior Batman and Batman Returns, it had one very obvious flaw: visible nipples. Big, prominent, distracting bat nipples. The fact that it was worn by the worst big screen Batman by far in George Clooney really didn't help matters. But the main point is that the bat nipples are just downright unacceptable. The costume also limited Clooney's movement significantly when he was wearing it, and it had an extremely prominent, weird-looking, and slightly misshapen crotch area that almost defied physics. General Zod and Company in Superman 2. This might be a controversial entry, given the era of the movie in question and the popularity of the iconic villains who wore the costumes. But the fact is that, retrospectively at least, these guys looked absolutely ridiculous. We are, of course, referring to Kryptonian villains General Zod, Ursa, and Non from 1980's Superman 2. What on earth were they actually wearing? They genuinely looked like a corny Scandinavian pop group in matching all-in-one playsuits. Even in the early 80s, that was hardly a look that should have struck fear into the heart of a superhero.
No. Kneel before Zod.
Harley Quinn in Suicide Squad. Ever since she first appeared in a 1992 episode of Batman the Animated Series, and in her countless subsequent comic book appearances, Harley Quinn's costume has caused controversy. By the character's very nature, what she wears is very sexualized, and over the years it seems to have gotten skimpier and skimpier. But the latest version in 2016's Suicide Squad movie has prompted the most complaints. Margot Robbie's character has been given a completely new look that some people are arguing isn't anything like what Harley Quinn should look like. Her modern red and blue color scheme is still somewhat intact, and she wears short shorts like she's done in the comics in recent years, but something about it just doesn't look right. Don't get us wrong though, the actress does look sexy as hell, so we'll have to wait and see if audiences take to the character with this new look. If you like the videos we make, then you're going to love another awesome YouTube channel called Wisecrack. Click here, or the link in the description, to be taken to Wisecrack's channel page, where you can find their hilarious and super smart breakdowns of movies, TV shows, and video games. If you're looking for something to watch, check out their episode diving into the deeper meaning of Deadpool. It's a brilliant look at one of our favorite new superhero movies. Make sure you subscribe while you're there, and tell them Screen Rant sent you. Thanks for watching our list of 10 famous superhero movies that got the costumes all wrong. Did you enjoy the video? Which other costumes were terrible in superhero movies? Let us know in the comment section below, and be sure to subscribe to our channel for more videos like this one.